Hello everybody and welcome to just a late night stream. Now, for those of you curious what the music was prior to this was all from the YouTube playlist. The songs were Almost a Year Ago, Moonlight Haze, and I don't know if we got to it, but the other one was 1940s Slow Dance. If you're terribly curious, I will look up who wrote it, but they're all in the YouTube list of things to watch. Now, oh, let me turn on the music, I guess, here. Sorry, this music was just really annoying me. I love it, it's great. It's just the only part. It's the only one. It's the only song they play. Alright, let me just very quickly rearrange my screen so if anybody decides to drop by to say some things, I can see it. It's always unfortunate that my second screen is a smaller screen. And it's down here where I'm looking, so I always get that sweet double chin action. Anyways, for those of you who've never played it, or I guess I doubt any of you have played it, but maybe you have watched my videos, which I doubt only a few people have watched those videos. So Cupid is a visual novel. Just, you know, point blank, it's a visual novel. So that means that there's a lot of reading. There's a lot of reading, some music changes and stuff, but I've already played through this one, spoiler alert. No spoiler alert. But I have played through the whole thing, and I have all the videos recorded. It's just a pain to edit sometimes, especially with like my Sony Vegas just being not the best recently. So in my first playthrough, I played a manipulative mother. So the first, you get to make some choices in this, and for the most part, you're speaking to mother. That is what the main character refers to her as, this voice. And so I played her very manipulative, like very sweetly manipulative, just because I didn't know like what this game was about, and I was just like, I don't know which direction to go about this, so I'm just gonna play manipulative. And now that I finished the game, now I'm curious to see what the other ending, so to say, would go. Like what the other choices would do or where it would send me. I don't think it would make too much of a difference in the moment I make the decision, but I think in the long run it would affect some things. So without further ado, let us start. Zero voice acting in this, BT dubs. I'm gonna have to do all the reading. So here we go. Yes, mother is gonna be creepy. Sorry, not sorry. Mostly because it doesn't tell you who the fucking voice is. And even though I've played through it once, that was a little bit ago. So I don't exactly remember who speaks first in certain situations. So I'll be like, this is my deep manly voice. And then it's like, oh, it was a little girl. And I'm like, fuck, you know? And since this is live, I can't edit it out. Lol. Alright, here we go. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. There's no need to explain. It's only natural. A mother loves her daughter more than anything else in the world. He hates you, doesn't he? The whole lot of them despise you, don't they? Chasing you into the forest and gouging a hole into your leg. All because you smiled at their husbands. And you know what? You deserve it. You freak. You disgusting, horrible, filthy little girl. Didn't I tell you to stay away from them? You never listen. Serves you right for being the little slut you are. But you don't have to worry, my darling. It's all right. Even if the whole world wishes you dead, I promise you this. Your mother will always be by your side. My goodness, child, whatever has happened to you? A girl was slumped in the doorway, soaked by the rain. Her legs were covered in dirt and blood. She lifted her head up upon hearing the priest's voice and stared at him with blank eyes. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. She hobbled forwards, her bloody leg giving way. Automatically, the priest rushed forward to steady her. Years of spiritual training had prepared him for the most unexpected guest to his church. He sprung into action. He ushered her to a pew, brought out some clean cloth and an antiseptic, and began to bandage the wound on her leg. Yet, throughout all this, he found that he couldn't take his eyes off her. He would be gazing at the roll of bandages in his hand, deciding how to tie them. And then, out of nowhere, he would be staring into her eyes. Even with all the mud and grime smeared across her face, he couldn't deny that she was absolutely beautiful. How old was she? 20? 18? 16? Her face was so young. The priest had long since aged past his desires for the opposite sex, but somehow, something about her enraptured him. When he realized his own thoughts, he quickly steered his mind towards other matters. My child, what happened to you? She seemed to take all the time in the world before responding. He looked at me. Looked? He looked at me, and he touched me. And then he started to kiss me. At first, the priest didn't understand. Then he realized with a jolt of anger what she meant. It was happening more and more often nowadays. These young men of France these days were spirited, uncontrollable These young men of France these days were spirited, uncontrollable ruffians. A lady walking home by herself one night would be prey to a few number of them. Lust. One of the 7 deadly sins. The one that the priest personally despised the most. Furrowing his brow in sorrow, the priest laid a hand on her thigh. You are safe now, child. God's house is a sanctuary for the faithful. I don't think he'll protect me. He looked at her in confusion. You see, Father, I have sinned again. Right there among the pews, before the altar of God, she bowed her head. I'm sorry. Was she apologizing to him? Or to someone else? Her hair hid her face and her eyes, and the priest could make neither head nor tail of her. He suddenly realized that his hand was still on her thigh and hurriedly drew it away. I'm sorry. She repeated the phrase over and over. After a while, the priest got up. Don't fret, child. You are not to blame. I will contact the local constable, but in the meantime, you are free to make yourself at home here. I will fetch you a hot drink. He patted her hand and left to go to the back room. She remained seated on the pew, her head bent forward. As the priest's footsteps faded away, the entire church fell into silence. Now that it was the dead of night, the clouds covered the sky. Barely a sliver of moonlight filtered through the stained glass. The girl sat alone in a dark ring of darkness. Don't they usually have this, like, at the front of the church? Or is this, like, the holy water? You know what? I haven't been in enough churches to be able to judge this picture. She opened her mouth. No. I know. If I may say my piece, surely. Yes. Yes, mother. But he is so very kind. Oh, shit. Which one did I decide I was going to do? Was I going to do nice mom or mean mom? Nice mom, mean mom. Nice mom, mean mom. I was nice last time, so let's be a cunt this time. Haven't you learned your lesson, idiot? You truly are an idiot. Haven't you learned your lesson? You're injured because of your own doing. And you dare tempt fate again? I'm sorry, Mother. I just thought it better to eat and sleep first before I left. Please don't be angry. Achievement get. Oh, you can't see it because my face is over it. I just got an achievement. Angry start. If you do not want me to be angry, then If you do not want me to be angry, then don't give me a reason to be. Haven't I told you time and again that the world is full of beasts? If only you were not like this. You saw the way the priest looked at you, didn't you? And still, you insist on staying. Where is your head? I understand. I shall leave at once. How am I going to mind you like this? You attract so much misfortune everywhere you go. Why must you be like this? You are a blight to my heart. I'm sorry. It's all my fault. The girl sat in silence. Mother was right after all. She was always right. Everything was her fault. Her fist shook with a mixture of fear and conviction. She had to do penance. Mother, give me strength. There is something I wish to do. The girl rose from the pew. In front of her was the altar, and on top of the altar was an ornately decorated cross. It was as wide as her hand, and the tip of the cross had been crafted such that it was razor sharp, which, you know, I thought was weird the first time I read it also. She left the pew, knelt briefly and then walked over to the altar. Don't tell me. You're quite sure you're doing this? The girl's arm trembled ever so slightly. What other way is there for me to atone? She picked up the cross. Oh, my darling daughter. Mother is proud of you. Slowly, she brought the sharp end close to her face. So close that it hovered just above her left eye. And then, she... Chapter 1. The Star and the Rose. A scruffy young girl in tattered clothes peeked through the open gates of the Chateau de Saint-Mille. I still haven't Googled it. Should I Google it? Should I just... We're gonna say it like 3 other times. Let's Google how to say that. Translate.google.com. Let's see. The Chateau de Saint-Mille. Thank you for re-saying it for me. Now how do I pronounce it?
Château du Sommeil.
Oh, it's called a Castle of Sleep, BT Dubs.
Château du Sommeil.
You sound drunk. Google you're drunk, go home. Chateau de Saint-Mille.
Château du Sommeil.
You heard me. Did you hear that? Chateau de Saint-Mille. Saint-Mille. I almost closed out of this. I don't know if that closes the stream or not, but let's not do it. An afternoon... Oh my god, are you fucking kidding me? Translate.google.com. The Goethe. Goethe. Oh, it's a taste. An afternoon's Goethe was being held in its gardens. People from high-class estates strolled around the manicured gardens while chatting loudly to one another. There were beautiful ladies clad in silk and velvet, their necks adorned with pearls and jewels. A variety of foods was displayed on the tables. The girl stared at the food. She hadn't eaten properly for the past few days. Ooh, which one is more mean? The one where I say, ask her if she's hungry, or when I say, we must not linger? Ooh, which one is more angry? Let's take a drink and think about it. I think we must not linger. We must not linger in this place any longer. I detest it. Surely we can look around for a bit. It's still a little early. There was something else that called to her, other than the party itself. She walked to and fro from the gates, peeking at the crowd despite the urgings of her mother to leave. Just a tiny glance would be enough. The girl smiled at the thought of him, the owner of the chateau, the Marquis de Gueule. The girl was drawn to him. He wasn't the same as other people. He seemed different somehow. He was kind to her and would always hand her food when she delivered flowers. Her heart felt at ease with him. I do not care for him. I do not care for him. But I wish you would stop oogling some man like a common whore. I just want to see him, Mother. What for? What good does its presence do you? He makes me feel that there's still good people in the world, Mother. There are no more good people in the world, child. The world has run out of them. All that is left are manipulative souls who appear kind on the outside because they need other people to survive. Ultimately, they only care for themselves. Don't you think I'm a good person, Mother? Humans are intrinsically selfish, including you. Why do you think I take great pains to keep you out of trouble? It's because you are like this little monster. I'm sorry, Mother. If I have ever caused you any pain, please forgive me. The girl stared at her shoes and looked around for a bit, hoping for just a glance before she left. And there he was. There was no harm in looking, she reasoned. She would never enter the Marquis's world. Let her heart be filled with hope. He turned his eyes in her direction. Did he smile at her? The girl's heart stopped. Did he recognize her? She beamed. Oh boy, here we go. My, isn't this creature deaf as well as dumb? It might be, poor thing. Mademoiselle. A voice called to the rose girl. She gasped. It seemed that somebody else had noticed her presence. She turned to leave. No, my dear, poor little creature, don't run away. Charlotte, she stinks. Don't touch her. Came to crash the party, little urchin. You hungry? Her stomach gave a low grumble. She was always hungry, it seemed, no matter how much or how little she ate. Encouraged by kindness the Marquis had shown her, the girl approached the women. She teetered towards their table. What are you selling? Look at this poor creature. Is she selling roses? These are all ugly ones. But not as appalling as the rag she's covered herself in. Are you trying your best to be this repulsive? Now, don't be mean, Antoinette. Perhaps it's the common of fashion nowadays. They laugh while gawking at her and her wares. Oh my, she only has one eye. Ghastly, but I can't look away. The other lady nodded her head. Look, a sideshow attraction, you mean? The freaks at the carnivals. She's darling in her own dirty, monstrous way. Maybe we can keep it. Hello, do you want some bread, urchin? Well, speak up. Maybe her tongue is short. Add that to the list of her sterling qualities. Quiet, Antoinette. Come on, don't be shy. Do you want some food? Let us hear you speak. Yes, madame. What? Yes, madame. I would be grateful. One of the ladies clapped in mockery at her reply. Oh, she talks. The ladies handed her the bread, but it was snatched away just before her fingers grazed it. Not before you dance for us first. Oh, make her do a handstand. I've seen one of those street people do that. Quite marvelous. Now, I'd like to see that. This party is getting quite boring. Well, come on, ma bête. Dance for your food. The girl looked at the beautiful, cruel faces of the women. That look on them. It was a burning desire to hurt something, simply because they could. She knew that look. Before they touched her and hurt her, they had that look burning in their eyes. Oh, look at what you did, Claudette. She's shivering like a leaf. Poor thing. The lady was laughing as she said those words. I didn't do anything. She should be grateful we're even offering her this much. Besides, those commoners are supposed to be jolly in their misery. Come on, girl, show us your joy. The girl moved away as they laughed. Mother, please save me. Mother? Ooh, didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell One is explaining, didn't I tell you to leave? Yeah, sure, let's do this one. Didn't I tell you to leave? Didn't I tell you to leave, insolent child? Now you call for me. Try to deal with this situation yourself. You have put yourself in this position anyway. I hope you learn your lesson. Hey there! A child's voice called out from behind her. It belonged to a girl around 7 with chubby cheeks and the look of curiosity in her eyes. She wore an old blue dress, somewhat patched at the corners, but kept clean and tidy. She was not rich, but she had an air as if she owned the ground she stood on. Another commoner? This party is absolutely teeming with them. The Marquis loves these things. Heard he picks them randomly from the street. Ooh, maybe I should get me one too. Do you think it's fashionable abroad, in his birth country, I mean? Persia. No, I heard he was from India. I heard a rumor he's a bastard son of a Greek queen. Goodness, that is so far-fetched. I could barely pronounce his name, though. He really should change it to something more acceptable. Who knows what kind of demons he might attract with such a blasphemous name? Aha! It must be why all these nasty, horrid little creatures flock around him. Oh! Devil or not, I'll forgive him if he kisses my hand. The ladies laughed. Salope, aren't you shameless? Don't lie, we all know why we're here. The ladies gossiped among themselves, openly ignoring the girl. The young girl took the sliding with a shrug. She approached the table and asserted her presence. What you doing? Goodness, they don't take a hint, do they? Throw something shiny, it might distract them. Hey, you've been holding that bread for a long time. Aren't you gonna give it to her? She pointed at the shabby rose vendor. Why do you care? Do you want the bread for yourself? I bet she's hungry too. I know, maybe you should toss the bread and see if they fight for it. The ladies laughed to themselves. The girl stared at them with confusion, her brows furrowed in a childlike understanding. Next thing everyone knew, she had swiped the bread from the woman's hands. Oh my! How rude! Horrible, filthy girl, give that back! The girl sniffed the piece of bread and nibbled at the surface. Mmm, yummy. It's still warm. She shoved the bread in the urchin's face. The scrumptious scent of bread flooded the rose girl's nose. Lick it. The sugared butter tastes good. No, you devil child, give that back. The urchin licked it. Her tongue was coated in sweetness. She stood there, squeezing the taste in her tongue. The girl grinned at her, and she couldn't help but grin back. Sorry, here you go. It's all yours. Oh, disgusting. Like we're going to eat anything that's been in your filthy mouths. Wow, so this is ours now? You ladies are so nice. Cheeky little brat. I'll have you thrown out of this party. I'll have you. A young man strode into the commotion. A sweet scent lingered as he passed. The rose girl felt her mouth well up. His presence filled her body, almost as if her hunger was abated. She blushed furiously. What a strange effect he had. Ladies. 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 Oh, Sire Guillaume. I just came to check in on my esteemed guests. Maybe I should make it deeper. I just came to check in on my esteemed guests. Is everything all right? Are you enjoying yourselves? One of the ladies started fanning herself with obvious annoyance. Well, these little beasts have been harassing us. Yes, my lord. We were just minding our own business when this girl swiped the food off our table. Horrible little nits. The girl stuck out her tongue at them. A lady wiped her eyes in mock tears. See, look at that. It's absolutely monstrous how these children act around adults now. There's no respect, monsieur. I worry for the next generation. Oh, Charlotte, don't cry. Well, my lord, we would all breathe a little easier if those children were sent on their way. Yes, who knows what kind of mischief they might be up to. They might set fire to the tables, you see? Oh? Or steal our jewelry. In fact, I think my pocket watch is missing. No. How unfortunate. One of the ladies continued her childless wailing. It is, monsieur. It's unfortunate how you allow your important guests to be treated this way. Please deal with these vermin. Throw them out now. Oh, my sweet ladies, I am stricken with grief at your misfortunes. Allow me to offer my heartfelt apologies. Unfortunately, this child is my important guest today, and you are, sad to say, paltry squatters. Excuse me, Madame Charlotte of Montpellier. I don't remember sending you an invite. Same for you, Lady Antoinette of Rennes and Lady Claudette of Lyon. Most people I invented are huge patrons of music. That is why they are here today. They came to listen to Mademoiselle Catherine Louis-Perrine. She is the 7-year-old piano prodigy who played for the Queen last summer. The man pointed at the girl busy chewing her half of the bread. The rose girl just stared at the unfolding situation. Well, that's... I am sure you were aware of that, were you not? No matter. I'm always happy to see you ladies. It is my pleasure to have you here. But I hope you don't mind giving some of the food away to my townspeople. That is why I keep my gates open. My servers are instructed to serve anyone who passes by, not just my guests. But don't you fret, my darlings. There is plenty more to be served. The ladies blushed in embarrassment. One of them began to fan herself even faster. Excuse me. The Marquis walked up to the two girls. The rose girl's heart beat so fast it made her heart feel light and dizzy. She had never been this close to him. It made her feel a mixture of fear and elation. Lady Catherine, your father has been looking for you. It is almost time for your performance. The girl looked up at the Marquis and did a little curtsy. My apologies, sire. I didn't mean to cause a clatter. Guillaume chuckled. I saw the whole thing, ma chérie. You put those ladies in their place. They were being mean to her. Guillaume narrowed his eyes at the quiet girl. She hid behind the basket of roses. She couldn't look at him directly. He was like the sun. It hurt just to be in his presence. Yet, there was a relief in her heart as he stepped closer to her. I've seen you here before, haven't I? The rose girl nodded and made a curtsy. I deliver I deliver roses to your house sometimes, sire. Yes. The girl with the sweetest face. The rose girl blushed. I love your roses, by the way. They stay fresh longer than they should. You've tended to them with love. Thank you, sire. Do you have a name, young lady? What's the matter? It is all right, young lady. If you would rather... Let's call her Rosa. Rosa. It fits her. I think she forgot her name, or she lost it. The Marquis nodded wisely. A valid point. Are you all right with that, Rosa? Yes. Come on, Rosa. Come on, Rosa. You'll watch me play, right? Her eyes darted from the girl to the Marquis. Oh, Sir Gilly doesn't mind. Gilly? He's really nice to me and my family. And he helps the people around town too. He won't throw you out. The Marquis held his right hand in the air as if swearing an oath. I won't. See? Come on, you're invited now. You're my special guest. There's plenty of food inside too, Rosa. Please, help yourself. Thank you, sire. Rosa is coming! Yay! Now, this is my first public performance, Rosa. I am a bit nervous. Catherine scratched her head. What will I do if I make a mistake? Papa will be very upset. The Marquis knelt in front of Catherine and rubbed her shoulder fondly. You won't make a mistake, ma chérie, as long as you put your heart into the keys. Play to touch your audience, and any mistakes won't matter. Do you understand? Catherine stared at the Marquis. Not really. The man chuckled. You will someday. Just play your first song with me in mind, will you? Something that you think might make me smile. Guillaume held Catherine's clear young eyes in his gaze. He kissed her hand. It was covered with sticky sugar and breadcrumbs. Catherine blushed. It was the first time she looked embarrassed about anything. It would be my pleasure, sir. Catherine trudged up to the wooden podium and walked toward the middle of the stage. The crowd's chatter died. She curtsied in front of the audience, waved to her father, and stole a glance at Guillaume. The man gave her a tiny nod. She sat down in front of the piano, admiring the cream and ebony keys underneath her fingers. Her own piano was broken and beaten. Father had sold his horse for it. The A3 key never played, and the strings would creak when it was cold. But it never failed her. She knew the keys like they were her own fingers. She whispered to the new piano softly, as if coaxing a beautiful untamed animal. Let's be friends, okay? She saw Rosa at the far end of the podium, watching her diligently. There was a renewed vigor in her blood. She could hear the keys calling out to her. A song that would make him smile. She placed her fingers on the keys. She began to play. At the ring of the first few notes, it became apparent to the audience that this girl was something special. Here was a little girl, barely tall enough to reach the pedals of the piano, playing as if she owned it. There were times she'd miss a note or two, but that didn't matter. She played the song to make someone smile, and it touched everyone present. Her musical skill was far beyond her years. Her fingers caressed the keys as if she was making a flower crown, carefully weaving the petals. She knew the correct way to tie the leaves so they wouldn't tear, like all smart little girls did. As the piano sang under her hands, Catherine seemed to disappear right in front of the audience's eyes. She was a vision after all, somebody leading them down a dream. A dream of a garden, the springtime, the shade of a tree on a windy day. The couples in the audience tightened their grips on the hands of their partners. Some closed their eyes and let the music saturate their soul. Sweet memories of youth, a first love, the yawn of a newborn. Rosa's eyes shone as she stared at Catherine. Her heart was captured by this image of her. A young girl swaying her head to the music, smiling as the notes poured out of her. She couldn't take her eye away from Catherine's glowing face. Was this happiness? Was this love? She looked like she was in love. And she was, wasn't she? In her innocence, she was still in love with life. In love with her family, with her pets, in love with every new discovery. She was full of hope. It was a bittersweet feeling for Rosa. A happy teardrop rolled down her cheek. She wanted to warm herself in that hope if she could. In the audience, Guillaume and Catherine's father sat beside each other. Sire Paride, your daughter is amazing. She is, isn't she? I mean, pardon my arrogance, my liege. I am a very proud father, you see. No pardon necessary, sire. Has she found a sponsor yet? The Duke of Versailles once spoke to me about it, but we have not made any arrangements. Then I must steal her away as soon as possible. Sire! I'd like to be Catherine's primary sponsor, if that is all right with you. What? Sire! And to further cement my status, that piano she is playing right now. It is hers. I've bought it for her. Francois's eyes widened in astonishment. That is... Francois gulped. That is beyond generous, sire. Guillaume smiled. Well, I must make it hard for you to refuse me, you see. I took the opportunity of asking you outright. You see, the Duke might offer an extravagant piano plated in gold. In that case, I have no choice but to humbly concede. What? I am kidding. The Duke of Versailles is the worst miser you've ever met. The man chuckled. Of course, I shall be paying for her musical tutoring as required, along with an ample stipend to accommodate your family. Ah, you don't have to look so surprised, Monsieur Perrine. Your daughter is a star. Your daughter is a star. Your daughter is a star. There is an effervescence about her that enraptures the soul. There is no doubt in my mind she will succeed. Thank you dearly, my liege. Please, call me by my name, monsieur. Let me remind you, this generosity isn't without charge. Her tutoring will be done at my house. I want to monitor her progress. Apart from that, I'd very much like Catherine to visit me and play from time to time. Music is one of my true passions. Her presence would benefit my mood tenfold. Of course, sire. That is a small price to pay for all your offers. On the contrary, monsieur. You don't have to decide now. Kindly think about it. Thank you, my lord. Sire Guillaume. Sorry. After the performance, Catherine and Rosa went to the Marquis' garden to play. Francois and Guillaume lingered on their table, sorting out the details of Catherine's further education. Emilie Perrine wandered around the crowd, searching for a familiar face. She arrived halfway through Catherine's performance, just in time to gush at her little sister's applause. Unfortunately, she couldn't find her father in the crowd. When she finally caught sight of the back of his head, she approached him hastily. Father, there you are. I've been looking all over for you. Emily stopped as she saw the man her father was talking to. It was none other but the Marquis himself. She fixed her hair self-consciously and curtsied. My lord, pardon my intrusion, I didn't realize. Guillaume smiled at her kindly. You are free to intrude any time, my lady. Emily smiled back, just as the rumor said. The Marquis was easy on the eyes. To whom do I owe the pleasure of your acquaintance? This is my eldest daughter, Emily. Pardon for not introducing her sooner. Charmed. Guillaume offered her a seat. Emily sat down across the man. Well, it seems talent and good looks run in the family. Francois rubbed his neck. Yes, my daughters are my pride and joy. Thankfully, they both took after the mother. Surely not, Monsieur Perrine. The eyes are yours, earnest and loving eyes. Emily snorted at such sappy words. Her father was clearly basking in the compliments. If this really was the famous Guillaume the rumors talked about, then he wasn't exactly much of a charmer, was he? She didn't know what all the fuss was about. The ladies in the house she worked for couldn't not seem to stop talking about this man. Admittedly, there was something morbidly curious about the way he looked at people. Like he was distracted and could only say words that were expected of him. I'm pleased to have finally met you, sire. I've heard a lot about you on my travels. All good things, I hope. It depends on the tabloid and the day of the week. Emily thought to herself and chuckled. You are a governess, I was told. Where do you work? With the Dimitri household, sire. Ah, yes. I heard you were marrying into the family soon. Oh, father, I told you not to tell anybody yet. I didn't, but you know how people talk? Word travels fast. Pardon the comment then, my lady. Please. Your betrothed is a lucky man, I'm sure. The conversation endured through the afternoon. Small talk, musical composers, their little town, Catherine's musical background, Francois' students, Emily's works. Emily played with her napkin, offering droll opinions on the particularly droll topics. All throughout the exchange, Emily observed the infamous Marquis de Gueule. This was him? The audacious, shameless flirt of the royal courts and tabloids? According to the rumors, he was able to bed both the widowed Countess Devonshire and her daughter at the same time, and even had a tumultuous relationship with the Prince of Garnet. He didn't limit himself to royalty, or so the tabloids said. His latest fling was with that of an English poet, who, they say, it almost killed him when he caught him with another man. Or woman. At this point, who knew what was real and what was a blatant lie made up by the newspapers? She had looked forward to meeting him, and here he was. Finally, talking about sampling the new bakery's creme brulee. She couldn't say she was disappointed exactly, but the Marquis was a depressingly normal man. Maybe even boring, Emily ventured. She watched as his gaze flickered across her hair and her nose before lazily trailing away. How infuriating. She wondered if he would suddenly say something coy or insist to dance with her. Just something outrageous. Honestly, so she could shoot him down. This man whom everyone was interested in? That would be a small victory for a reasonable woman everywhere. But the Marquis was nothing but polite. He did not ogle. He did not touch unnecessarily. Oh. No audacious gestures or suggestive winks of eyes. He would not even look at her for more than 2 seconds. Maybe she was not pretty enough to flirt with? Emily bit her lip. She shouldn't be thinking that. But there were also times when he would quietly look into her eyes, and when the conversation lulled, when the words spoken were without meaning, their eyes would converse further. To Emily, he'd started to look lonely underneath the facade of caprice. He seemed tired of all the gallivanting, the rumors, and the numerous flings. We are all a little lonely, aren't we? Perhaps even he. He invited the family over to his chateau and commented on how empty the building felt sometimes. Music was his guilty pleasure. It got him through the cold nights, he said with a sad grin. How he wouldn't mind a warm soul to touch. And before she could stop herself, Emily had begun to imagine his lips on her neck on one of those cold nights. Emily shook her head, trying to escape the thoughts in her mind. They were having a perfectly mundane conversation. She didn't know where these thoughts came from. Fortunately, her father didn't seem to notice. Music and loneliness struck a nerve with Francois Perrine. He had immersed himself in music, tutoring his students and Catherine ever since his wife had gotten sick. It had been 6 years. But sometimes the nights were cold. For Francois, the Marquis was speaking to his soul. He was a kindred spirit. He wasn't a pompous showboat like all the other royalty Catherine had played for. The Marquis had a wine collection he wanted to show Francois. Such a down-to-earth, generous young man. Emily, your face is flushed. Are you all right? I'm fine. Just the sun, probably. This was not true, of course. The afternoon sun was already lost most of its heat. Thankfully, Catherine provided a distraction. She ran towards the little huddle and flung her arms around her father's torso, chattering happily about the gardens and butterflies. A young ragged girl followed behind her. Emily wasn't sure how old the girl was. Her dirty blonde hair hid the left side of her face. You could see faint traces of scars peeking through. A surge of motherly affection caught hold of her heart. "Hello there, young lady." The girl looked down at her toes, but gave her a shy smile. "I see you've made a crown of flowers. You look very pretty." Thank you, madame. Catherine gave it to me." "Sister, this is Rosa. She's really nice. She knows the name of all the flowers in Sir Gilly's garden." "Catherine, there you go again with your silly names." "Sister, help me convince Papa to let Rosa stay with us." "Catherine? Papa, please, please let her stay with us. She doesn't have anywhere else to go." "Now, Catherine, this is not very nice. Rosa here is a girl. She is not a kitten you can just pluck up from the streets and take home like you always do with stray animals. Goodness knows we have all the stray cats of France living in our house." "Yes, I know she's not a kitten. I know she's a girl. But shouldn't we take her home even more so?" Francois sighed. Guillaume chuckled under his breath. He was clearly enjoying this exchange. "Your daughter has some very unique views," I agreed. "Well, Sir Gilly, what do you think?" "Huh?" Guillaume's face lost its casual bystander look. "You are a marquis. I'm sure my father would follow your orders, right? Shouldn't we take Rosa home?" Guillaume's brows furrowed at being put on the spot so suddenly. He stole a glance at Francois, who was silently pleading with his eyes not to humor the child. He cleared his throat. "Well, I'm sure it is up to your father since he owns the house. He will have to clothe and feed Rosa, you see." "Yes, but I've got that all figured out. Ever since Sister moved to work, nobody minds the house anymore. And I have to wash the dishes every time. Ugh. Papa's so busy and we always have enough food for the two of us. If Rosa stays, then I wouldn't be so lonely on my own. She'll wear Sister's old clothes and we'll mind the house when both Sister and Father are away. She can wash the dishes sometimes and I'll wash them sometimes." Guillaume and Francois shared a look. "And, besides, if it were up to me, I'd have people take one girl home in their house and give her food. Girls don't even eat that much. Not sure about boys." She thought for a bit. "But I'm sure that's not too much, that people can't take them home too. One time, I ate one whole plate of potatoes and my stomach hurt. If Rosa was there, I wouldn't have eaten so much. Maybe." Guillaume couldn't help but laugh. Francois rubbed his neck in embarrassment. "I'm so sorry, sire. She's very headstrong." "Father, I'm sure taking Rosa in wouldn't be much trouble for us financially, yes? My new work pays better. I'm sure we can adjust." "Well, about that. Perhaps if Rosa works in my household, it wouldn't be much of a burden on your family, Sir Perrine." "Sir Gilly is great." "You are truly a kind soul, sire." "Not at all. I'm sure I need her help more than she needs mine. Isn't that right, Rosa?" "In that case, I would love to offer my home to Rosa. Although I'm still worried that this is supposed to be more complicated, sire. What about her family or her friends? Are we violating any laws, perhaps? I'm not even sure." "As long as it is consensual, sire. The details can be smoothed out later." Later. The girl was quiet the whole time. She was looking at her toes, or at Catherine. Rosa, do you have any family? Relatives? Friends you stay with? No, sire. My mother died a long time ago, but she guides me always. So please don't be compelled to mind me. No, don't go back to the streets, Rosa. It's September. It's going to be really cold soon. Sir Gilly will even give you work. Stay with us. But Catherine, Francois sighed in surrender. All right. She can stay for the night. Papa! Just for tonight, then we'll see if she wants to stay for longer. Catherine, you cannot hold people in the place just because you want them there. Do you understand? If Rosa wants to leave, she may leave. You cannot keep her like an object. Guillaume cleared his throat. That's sound advice, Sir Perrine. Yes, Papa, I understand. Rosa, please make yourself comfortable in our home. Thank you. Papa is the best. Catherine turned to Guillaume again. Sir Gilly, don't you think if everyone with a house takes one person home, nobody would freeze in winter? You should make it into a law. They'll obey you because you're a marquis. And because you're tall. Oh, so people obey my orders because I am tall. What a compliment. Well, you're taller than my papa, at least. He'll never be a marquis. Francois pulled on his daughter's ear with embarrassment. Catherine, mind your manners. I'm so sorry, sire. Guillaume shook his head, his eyes trailing over the Perrine family. Emily watched him curiously. That same sadness once again surfaced for the briefest moment. You have a lovely family, sire. I am quite jealous. You make me want to settle down myself someday. He chuckled. Maybe. Emily's heart skipped a beat. Did he just look at her when he said that? She couldn't be sure. Catherine is perfect the way she is. It is one of the reasons why I am very invested in her. Guillaume knelt down so he was eye to eye with Catherine. He patted her head. You are a very intelligent and kind-hearted girl, Catherine. You are a star. Mon étoile. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that. Total guess. Someday, you will change the world. At least, I'd like to see you try. Mother? Help me. My chest. I can't breathe. No. Catherine. Chapter 2. La Vécure. It's funny, is it not? They always leave you. Such is the way of the world. The more you love, the more you lose. Oh, it seems like they'll stay forever, but they never do. I'm the only one who stays, my lovely Rose. My love is the only love you need. You were always so weak. Always so loving to people who did not deserve it. I told you to get rid of her, didn't I? I told you to be wary. I knew it from the start, my Rose. Oh man, I think she was nothing but selfish is a little bit meaner. You fought so hard. You never used to fight with me. But now she killed herself. Your sacrifice lost in her selfish ways. I knew she would cause you pain. It saved me the trouble of delivering you from her clutches. She was poison. I am glad she is gone. Your silence bothers me, child. She was important to me, Mother. I loved her. Mother only laughed at Rosa as Rosa screamed out her pain. Rosa felt strong arms shake her awake. Rosa. She opened her eyes and was hit by a strange sadness that crushed her. She was dazed for a moment. Why was she so sad? And then she remembered. Her best friend was gone. She was gone. Rosa, how are you feeling? Guillaume sat by her bed, a hand in hers. Rosa didn't realize she had been the one holding on to it so tightly in her fitful sleep. She broke from his grasp and clutched her knees. Rosa. She remained silent. Go fuck yourself, Torphy. I'm just kidding. I love ya. I came to check on you. You went into shock and lost consciousness. I'm about to change games after this exchange. BT dubs. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them down in the comments. You went into shock and lost consciousness. I can only imagine how hard it must have been for you to see her like that. His words echoed in her brain, yet she did not register much of their meaning. Rosa still refused to speak, and Guillaume fidgeted with his glove. The wake will take place as soon as possible, Rosa. I just wanted to let you know she is being taken care of. He's hiding something. There was a slight triumph in Mother's voice. He wants to get rid of her body as soon as possible. Don't you see it, child? Tell me you're not falling for this. Rosa was tired. Mother, always the cynic, would say such things. She hated anyone who came close to Rosa's heart. Rosa didn't want to hear it. She didn't want to deal with anything right now. All she wanted to do was wallow in her loneliness, to curl up inside the hole Catherine had left behind in her sleep. My child, tell me you see it. Which one is meaner? Which one is meaner? We're playing the mean one. Like, the real bitchy one. It's a very interesting story, actually. Remember the fear in Catherine's eyes in her last days? Look at how unperturbed. I think maybe this one's a little bit meaner. You have seen it, haven't you? She was mostly hostile. But sometimes when her sanity returned, she was afraid. Afraid of this man. How well do you even know him, child? I've known him for as long as I knew Catherine, Mother. He is a close friend. I didn't ask how long you've known him, but how well. Beyond the mask that he displays in public view, do you even know his past? Do you even know any of his ambitions or secrets? He was always a private man, Mother. Think back, child. Isn't it curious how all his past relationships have ended in disaster? Everything he touches crumbles. That is not enough to accuse him of anything. You idiot. He is different. He does not belong. You have felt it too, haven't you? Rosa looked at Guillaume with new eyes now. A hint of doubt slithered out from beneath her sadness. Rosa wanted something to blame, a cask for all her regrets. Guillaume seemed like the perfect candidate, didn't he? Yes, you're finally seeing it. Open your eyes, child. It made sense. Guillaume and Catherine's relationship began to peter off into coldness right before she died. Her mental instability only served to compound the fracture in the relationship. Perhaps Guillaume was tired of her and Perhaps Guillaume was tired of her and had her killed off for convenience? Or perhaps Catherine, in her psychotic state, killed herself to spite him. Rosa stared at the man beside her. He is not to be trusted, child. He is a demon. Guillaume returned to Rosa's angry stare with a resolute look. I know you must hate me, Rosa. I am aware that I only aggravated Catherine's condition with my presence. I know the feeling when I am not wanted. He stood up, a hard yet kind look on his face. Just remember that I will always be here for you. As much as I was there for Catherine, even though she spat me out. Rosa bit her lip. When Catherine had refused to eat, it had been Guillaume who fed her and attended to her. Despite Catherine hurling abuse at him, he had tried to care for the sick woman himself. Lies. All lies. Keeping up appearances. Then what is it that he has done, Mother? Catherine committed suicide. It was not by his hand that she died. Are you just going to leave it at that? Look in his face and tell me you trust him wholeheartedly. Rosa tried to search for the answer in Guillaume's eyes, but as always, his face betrayed only a few emotions. I don't know. Mother was screaming now. He killed her. I am sure he did. And you're letting him get away with it? Please, my head hurts. And you say you loved her. You never loved her, you selfish child. I've always known you were this selfish. You're a monster. Just like your father. Stop! I mean, you're not wrong, Torpy. You throw people away. Didn't you throw me away when I inconvenienced you? Admit it. You were secretly relieved I died. No! Stop it! She screamed back at the last voice. Her mouth quivered. Guillaume stared at Rosa in shock. The outburst had accidentally come aloud. It pulled a plug that kept the tears from pouring out. Now her vision clouded and she blinked them away again and again. She was not sobbing. She didn't even realize... No, I was right. She was not sobbing. She did not even realize her face was wet. Guillaume and Rosa stared at each other, both kindred in their sorrow. He knelt down by Rosa's bed and wiped her tears with his hands. He did not say anything while doing this, and Rosa stared blankly ahead. It almost stunned her how many tears a person could cry, one or the two. I loved her too, Rosa. He said it after a while. I know what you're feeling. She didn't know if it was her own or if her mother's anger was somehow influencing her, but her chest heaved. She balled up her fist so tightly that her fingernails hurt. Shut up. She spat and the man recoiled at the uncharacteristic bitterness of her words. Catherine was afraid of you. Catherine was afraid of you in her last days. You did something to her. I know it. She could feel Mother inside her head building up her anger. He has to be punished. You are to blame. He has to atone. I know you are guilty. He must be punished. Guillaume stared at her dumbfounded for a few seconds, but the man didn't try to appease her. He only stepped closer to Rosa and wrapped his arms around the hysterical girl. Let go of me. I hate you. Let go of me. No, let me go. But Guillaume didn't. If he needs something to hate, then I'll accept your hate. But you must accept my comfort too. I need you too right now, Rosa. You are the only one who loved her as much as I did. Guillaume's words brought back Catherine into Rosa's mind. Almost at once, the anger was replaced with sadness so heavy she couldn't breathe. Why was she so angry again? She was focusing on anger instead of pain. It was easier. The real tears came, all for the loss of the girl they both loved. Tomorrow was not going to come. There was only right now, the loss and two friends mourning a loved one. Rosa cried until she thought she wouldn't be able to stop, and Guillaume quietly held her. Slowly, her weeping began to subside into sobs, and only then did he speak again. Stay in the chateau, Rosa. I know you are thinking of leaving now that Catherine is gone, but I can't let you wander the streets again. I will take care of you. It's what Catherine would have wanted. Like a spell being broken, these words brought back her anger. How could you possibly know what Catherine wants? She pushed his arms away from her. She's dead. Guillaume's mouth pursed and he stepped away. I want you to go. Please leave me. Guillaume sighed and closed his eyes. I understand. He turned on his heels and left without another word. Hours seemed like minutes to her. She would fall asleep and awaken in unfit intervals so often that she had lost the exact time. Awake, she would stare at the part of the wall with no coherent thought forming in her mind. One would think mourning should be spent in a depressive frenzy. All the reasons to grieve are yours, after all. She could wail now, if she wanted. She could pull on her hair, curse the skies. She could reminisce the past, admire the frailty of human lives. Unfortunately, it was something less poetic. Pain was simple. It was clean. It was a well-sharpened knife that sliced through the heart in one stroke. No blood. No mess. Empty. When tears were spent, there was just a hole where your heart had been. The hurt called out to you. It lingered. But since there was nothing there anymore, you couldn't find where the pain ended and you began. Rosa slept all day. The sun had gone down twice before she shifted from her bed. She stood up slowly, deliberately, with a purpose. My child, you know I hurt when you're hurt. Already a surge of power flowed within her, fueled by her grief. The power filled her up and there was so much emptiness inside, the energy seemed to saturate her whole body. Purpose was always a balm for grief. Hey, Glammy. Welcome back. Mother, tell me what to do. Justice, retribution. Yes, retribution, because we're doing the mean one this time. Start with his guilt, child. Uncover his lies. Crush his mask. He must pay for everything he has done. Oh, another achievement unlocked. You can't see it because my face is over it. That's the goal of this run. It's to get all these achievements I didn't get last time. And a different ending, hopefully. Rosa didn't speak, but she started to form the words in her mind, feeling them in her bones, giving life to every thought. She took a small knife and carved a symbol on the floor. It didn't need much. A guilt spell. It didn't aim to punish. It only aimed to inform. She needed to know how much guilt the man carried and the source of such guilt. If the guilt was concrete and came from a direct action, then she would know Guillaume did something to Catherine. It had been a while since she had used magic. It used to be the only way she could protect herself from the world. Mother had taught her, and now, Mother guided her as she cast her spell. She needed a possession of the man. Rosa opted for his voice, still fresh from memory. She focused on the last conversation they shared. If you need something to hate, I will take care of you. I need you. His words made Rosa feel distress and confusion. Always it was this way with him. The feeling wasn't foreign. It had been there for years. I will always be here for you. Rosa felt a violent force upturn her stomach. It was that horrid lurch just before vomiting. You failed. The spell collapsed in her brain. Focus, idiot child, or you lose your chance. Rosa tried again. This time she focused on Guillaume's eyes. Cold, like flints of steel. Dark and fathomless. No grief except perhaps for the situation. No Catherine. No pain of loss. This didn't matter to her. The relationship was dying anyway. Where was his guilt? Rosa dug deeper. She increased the chanting on her lips. No torment. No uncertainty. No guilt. Did the spell fail again? She searched once more and found nothing. There was no guilt in Guillaume's eyes. She could stop the spell now, knowing he was innocent. If the spell had worked, then Guillaume was blameless. But this absence was most distressing. Rosa desperately pushed her mind further, almost wishing there were traces hiding beyond her reach. Guilt should be present in any loss, no matter how little. Don't we blame ourselves for our own loss? Don't we hate ourselves and punish ourselves even if it wasn't our fault? It didn't have to be real. But we need guilt to feel pain. But Guillaume didn't have a sliver of guilt. The vicious pain took hold of her again, squeezing her stomach with murderous intent. The pain so great Rosa wasn't sure if the spell had failed or succeeded. Something is wrong. Before Rosa could agree with Mother, she felt a sharp pain in her throat. Rosa clutched her neck, scraping, scratching. A sharp, jagged lump was blocking her breathing. She could feel its edges crawling up her windpipe, tearing the soft walls as it moved about. The pain didn't stop. Rosa fell to her knees and gagged. Huge drips of blood spit ran down her chin. She thrashed about like a woman being strangled. Her mother remained calm, unaffected by Rosa's distress. Rosa was about to expel whatever it was. Tears ran down her face, the horrible acidic taste coated her tongue. Finally, she opened her mouth and forced the vile thing out. She kept her eyes shut, afraid to look at whatever had come out of her. But the choking feeling gripped her, and she puked again. The liquid dripping down her mouth thickened and congealed. It wasn't spit anymore, but blood. It gathered around her knees in a growing pool. Rosa panted. Every breath was laced with pain, but the gruesome effect had finally stopped. She wiped the sweat on her forehead. Something on the floor reflected light. She struggled to comprehend what was in front of her. She reached out with her hand, and the prick of something sharp made her recoil. She tried again, this time seeing more clearly. Rosa picked them up with shaking hands. Needles. In her palm were a handful of long metal needles. She had regurgitated them along with blood and jagged pieces of flesh. Rosa examined them with a horrified kind of curiosity. She stuck one in her thumb and it drew more blood. They were real. They had materialized in her throat while casting the spell on Guillaume. Rosa wiped her mouth. There was something wrong with him. Something potent and dark. Or could it be that she had merely botched the spell horribly? She had pushed her limits this time. She had gone too far. But still a tugging concern was forming. It was as real as the metal needles in her hand. Rosa tried to stand up on her feet, but she was exhausted. Her knees failed her and she crumpled on the floor like a rag. I knew it. I knew it. That man. We must find out how to destroy him. Rosa stared at the needles in her hand. Who are you really, Guillaume? Who are you really, Guillaume? That's some intense stuff going on. Holy crap. Oh, scroll backwards. Chapter 3, Portraits, Candle Lit. What time is it? I guess I'll stay here. Rosa entered the room with the tray of pastries and a pot of tea. Her duties were finished and she was allowed a bit of free time. She thought of accompanying Catherine for today's lessons, piano lessons. Kath, do you want some tea? The girl didn't look her way. She continued to churn out the bitter, melancholic sound from the piano. Rosa sighed. Her shoulders slumped in defeat. She placed the food on the table. She stood by the stool beside the piano, twiddling her thumbs while her friend continued to stew in her foul mood. Is that a new composition? It sounds nice. Nowadays, you make a new piece every day. It's a shame they're all so sad. Catherine didn't reply to that, but when she spoke again, her words were bitter. I saw them again, those degenerate louts. No shame at all. Kath, all right, consenting damn adults and all that. At least they have the decency to close it. At least have the decency to close the door. Sometimes I dare say that they want to get caught. When I walked in on them this morning eating each other's faces, they had this look on them, like they were daring me to say something. Isaac, I don't know. Do they want my applause? Very nice technique, sire. I very much like the way you swap spit with my sister. Great tongue action. Très magnifique, because I don't know how to say this word. And he even has the gall to speak to me. Be a dear and put them on the table, Catherine, he said, like like I'm a soft-headed giggle mug of a maid. He wanted me to get annoyed. I just know it. Well, fie I am. Catherine turned to the tea and pastry, stuffing the buttered bread into her mouth. Easy there. These damn things. These damn delicious things. She said the last part angrily, as if she blamed her troubles on the food's relish. Rosa giggled in spite of herself. Catherine wiped her mouth in mock anger. What are you laughing at, wench? It's almost comical to watch you eat when you're angry, Kath. You're like the giant monsters that attack defenseless town in horror books. Oh yes? Catherine made some tiny squeals and picked up another piece of bread. No, please spare us. She adjusted her voice and boomed out a roar. The Cathoron... God damn it. The Catherianian monster of the deep doesn't show mercy to anyone. She dropped it in her mouth and chewed it savagely. Yum! Annihilation is delicious with tea. The two girls giggled. Catherine's rare smile turned into a rueful laugh, and soon Rosa felt her mood turning somber again. What happened anyway? Aren't you annoyed by it too? Sister has changed ever since she started helping in the chateau. Now it's all Guillaume this and Guillaume that. As if she wasn't already married. Ugh. She doesn't even care that people are talking behind her back. They're calling her a two-time slut now. I'm tired of running around picking fights with gossipers. She hasn't even visited home for a long time. Father misses her a lot. He always asks about her. Father had worked so hard all these years just to give us a comfortable life. Now he is sick and all she cares about is that dastardly Marquis. Rosa shrugged. I am a little bit annoyed. But I guess I've gotten used to it. Their lives are their own, Kath. She didn't dare divulge more than that to Catherine, but it was partially true. I like Guillaume. He's a nice friend, but I love my sister. If they want to stay together, then why not fix this and have it all? But what irritates me to my damn snatch is the way they are with each other. Catherine recently found the use of expletives endearing in her speech. Rosa hoped it was phase. They're fucking miserable. Any halfwit can see that. Yes. I've told Emily time and again to smarten up. She's hurting a lot of people, including herself. But as if she would listen to her 16-year-old brat of a sister. Even Guillaume is impressed. I can tell. Remember when he used to come and visit us here and have tea? Or when we used to have picnics in the afternoon? We used to run around chasing rodents in the garden. You ran around. We just want you to get dirty, actually. That is very true, you nitheads. Back then, it used to be fun visiting the chateau. Now we barely even see him. He just stays in the bureau all day, brooding. Is it something adults subject themselves to, like a torturous ritual? I really don't understand why two people who are clearly unhappy keep at it. Rosa did understand. At least some part of her did. She couldn't exactly explain how pain and love worked. All she knew was that it had something to do with an absurd, obsessive amount of hope. She felt Mother tugging at her mind. She loved Mother so much. Living with the Parade gave her an ample comparison to her former life. She had finally accepted that Mother was cruel. And yet, Mother still gave her love and kept her from wanting. Was that crazy? Perhaps it was the only love she needed. Perhaps it was what she deserved. Rosa shook the thoughts off her mind and just shrugged. I know you are worried about your sister, Kath, but they will figure it out. Humans learn. Look at you all profound and shit. You read any good books lately? Just the riveting account of the Ugly Duckling and Ba Ba Black Sheep. Ah, the classics. I don't know how you put up with it though. I hate reading words. In order to write, I have to learn how to read first. I want to write. Why would you want to do a dastardly thing like writing? Why would you want to hit some crazy strings until your fingers bled? The two friends laughed again. I want to remember things. I want to write them down. But most of all, I want to feel the way you do when you play the piano, Kath. Oh? The way you look when you play, your passion and bliss in musical form. It feels like love, like magic. You inspire me to do something fulfilling and grand. Well, I'm sure you will. Hey, why not write a play one day? Oh. Let's do it. You write an amazing play, and I shall provide the music. We'll travel around the country and perform. We'll make lots and lots of money and gain lots of followers. We shall be known as the Parade Caravan of Wonders. Parade? Are you sure? Ponder the best! Trust me. That sounds darn bratty, Kathy. Ugh. From this day forward, no one is allowed to call me Kathy ever again. The sound of a knock interrupted their giggles. Catherine, it's me. I need to discuss something important with you. I forgot her accent. Oh, fuck. On the bright side, she doesn't speak very long here. Frustrated, Catherine pouted at the sound of her sister's voice. She turned back to the piano and began to pound a sarcastically happy tune. Rosa stood up and opened the door. Hello, Rosa. Madame? She had seen little of the older Parade recently. She had seen little of the older Parade sister recently, and it had sounded her how old she had begun to look. Her radiant face looked tired and harrowed, almost crone-like. Under her eyes hung huge bags. And yet, she still looked quite dignified, full of pride and pomp. There was an extra rogue of skin, and her demeanor was excellent. It was as if pride was her only source of nourishment these days. Do you mind giving Catherine and me a moment of privacy? Rosa gave a small bow. Of course not, madame. Rosa gathered her nursery books and squeezed Catherine's shoulder before stepping out of the room. Rosa entered the quiet room of the library. She was about to approach the table when she noticed Guillaume already occupying a seat. He was writing something in the book, somewhat immersed in the activity. Rosa stopped dead in her tracks. What are you doing just standing there? He is going to see you. Leave now while you still have the chance. All right, mother, maybe you're right. Unfortunately, Guillaume lifted his head and saw her by the door. Oh, hello, Rosa. Rosa took a step back. Maybe it was best to walk away as if this were a mistake. But that would be rude. He had already seen her after all. But she had never been alone with him. It was just too awkward. Well, why not just go in? It was going to be fine. They had conversed normally before. Yet, that was because Catherine had been around to disperse her awkwardness. Now I look like an idiot. Guillaume watched her pace in front of the door in amusement. Rosa decided to go in. She had already embarrassed herself enough anyway. There was little left to lose. Besides, there was nowhere else to go in this big house. She had already gotten lost in its hallways, much to the annoyance of the maitre d'. The library was her favorite place. If she stayed quietly in one corner, Rosa was sure they wouldn't bother each other. She took a seat at the farthest corner of the table and opened her book. Oh no, he's actually standing up and walking over? No, you horrible man, just sit over there while I sit over here. Me though. But Guillaume was already beside her, peeking at her when she was reading. A cold sweat spread on her scalp. Rosa, that book. Rosa began to chatter nervously. I know it's a children's book, sire. I'm teaching myself how to read. I know most commoners don't really bother, but I wanted to learn, so please don't laugh or mock me. Guillaume pointed at the book. It is upside down. Rosa stared at it. The ducks in the picture had their feet up in the air. Rosa squirmed, feeling the heat on her cheeks. She couldn't think of anything more embarrassing. I'm sorry. Guillaume's face lost its cheer. What do you need my forgiveness for? Rosa looked up at Guillaume. His eyes lacked the gentle glint they usually had. It was such a subtle change. Something felt rather than observed. She thought he reprimand her. The words, man. Oh my god. She thought he would reprimand her further. His face certainly looked like it. Instead, he sat down beside Rosa, drumming his fingers on his cheek while he watched her wordlessly. Well, weren't you going to read? Was something wrong with him today? He didn't seem like himself. Had he eaten something bad? The aura he exuded was not his usual friendly warmth. Yet, it wasn't particularly wicked. The look on his face just read slightly and eternally miffed. Rosa turned the book upright and read the words aloud. Once you, That is the U with the short sound. It's pronounced like this. Guillaume made the sound, his face still in his lazy stare. Rosa nodded and continued. Her nerves were frazzled, but she was actually at ease with his presence. She felt like a child being taught by their parent. The parent was strict, but still caring. And the child was jumpy, but eager to learn and please. Most of all, he would not hurt her for her mistakes. Rosa was almost sure. There lived. The past tense is live. Why do we change it? It's a rule of grammar that... Grammar? Guillaume narrowed his eyes at her. Do you even know your alphabet? Rosa shook her head. You should start there. Guillaume rose from his chair and disappeared amongst the shelves. He left an old thick book covered in green felt. This was what he had been writing in earlier. It looked tattered and worn. The pages laid fat? Typo. Maybe, I don't know. The pages laid flat on its side so that the book didn't close properly. Rosa reached out to peek at the cover when, You are not to touch that. Rosa's whole body froze at the sound of Guillaume's warning. Guillaume's stare followed her even as she whispered numerous apologies under her breath. I'm sorry. Guillaume just rolled his eyes at her. You're always seeking forgiveness for everything. Am I? I'm sorry. His hand struck the table in front of Rosa. In the quiet library, the sound rang uncomfortably in her ear. When she looked up, Guillaume's face was looming severely above hers. He moved closer to her, his eyes fixed on her intensely. Rosa's mouth hung open. She struggled to say something, but her wits were like burning ends of a matchstick. Before she could compose herself, she felt Guillaume's hand lift her chin. Rosa's heart thumped loudly inside her chest. Please don't, not you too. She felt his breath on her face and her heart sank into despair. Mother's voice resounded in her head. In the end, they are all the same. He's like everyone else. There are no more good people left in this world, child. She shut her eye and prepared herself for the worst like she always did when... Then she felt her face being turned from side to side. She opened her eye to see Guillaume studying her face like a textbook. You are a fairly attractive girl. Why do you carry yourself as if it is a slight? He lifted her hair and that hid her damaged eye. Rosa clenched her teeth. Is it because you were hurt before? He said it so matter-of-factly, like he was staring at the sky that was blue. Rosa recoiled from his touch. No? I did that to myself. I wasn't talking about your eye. He placed the book on the table. It was a thin pamphlet filled with letters. This is really fucking long. Holy shit. I just want this chapter to be fucking over. There were lines on the book that instructed the user to trace letters with their quill. Rosa wanted to focus on it, but she could feel the truth in the Marquis's words stinging her. It was the way you went limp when I touched you. Next time, I advise you fight back. If you don't want to be touched, then you don't have to be. Do you understand this? But I'm weak. Says who? His eyes were humorless. The world does not care. The world cares not for people who think themselves as victims, Rosa. If you need power, then be powerful. To have it, it is necessary to crush things along the way. Rosa flinched under the weight of his stare. She realized that the polite and courteous Guillaume was but a facet. It was still him, but it was nothing but an oil-painted portrait, an artwork of his devising. Synthetic, aloof, and irrelevant, It couldn't capture his essence in a few human strokes. Suddenly, Rosa realized he was powerful. Who are you? She caught herself before saying it aloud. You are not Guillaume. And yet, he spoke to her as if he knew what it was like to hurt and to fear. If you do not start acting like your own... If you do not start acting like you own yourself, then people will not hesitate to take everything. He laid out the rest of the books he had brought out. One was an activity book for children. It had a picture of a child holding an apple with an arrow stuck in it. Another was a book of limericks. The other two were thicker books that intimidated her. She would come to know them as Hamlet and Paradise Lost. One of those is much thicker of a book and a much more difficult read than the other. Oh, I almost choked on that water. But the one that caught her eye was an ornately designed book. It had a beautiful red jacket with delicate gold trimmings lining the corners. The gods and goddesses of Roman mythology. This would be her favorite book, her treasure, and she knew it like love at first sight. These books are yours. Take them with you. Read the thin one first, and then gradually build your vocabulary with the thicker ones. Paradise Lost, I don't know if you guys have ever read Paradise Lost, but that is not a fucking easy read. That is a very not easy read. That is very dense subject matter. Rosa ran her hands over the skin of the red book. She opened the cover gingerly, as if carefully unwrapping a present. Thank you. No thanks needed. I simply showed you some books from a portion of the library you were unaware of. You are still so generous, even when you are like this. Like what? That? What? What? Somewhat irritable? Guillaume didn't reply, leaving an awkward silence lingering between them. Then he gave a giant laugh that made Rosa jump out of her skin. I do look damn irritable, don't I? Oh, tell me about it, Torfy. I took a course. It was called Survey of British Literature 1. And it was from, like, beginning of time to right before Shakespeare. And it was the worst class I've ever taken in my life. Why? Is it because of Emily? Guillaume's eyes drifted away. No. I've always been. You just pointed it out. But you are not usually like this. Especially with Catherine and the townspeople. I find it easy to adapt to people. Especially the ones I like. The ones I like. Guillaume looked at Rosa as if he had just become aware of her presence. Makes me wonder why I'm always so stern with you. I'm sorry. Rosa shook her head. I somehow prefer this side of you. Guillaume cocked his head to the side. He brought out a green book that Rosa noticed earlier. This is called a journal. When you learn to write, start one. What is it? Something you can use to remember yourself when you've forgotten. Does it work? It used to. Nowadays, not anymore. Oh. The act itself is the only thing I remember. Now, let's start with your vowels. A scream pierced through the halls of the chateau. Whew! It was Catherine. Guillaume sprinted to the door with Rosa not far behind. I think I have to click again. Click with the other hand. Back in the piano room, Catherine took a shaky step towards her sister. She wasn't moving at all. Blood dotted the ivory keys. I didn't... It was an accident. Emily? She was overcome with the urge to approach her sister and shake her awake. Make sure she was okay, but... It was a nasty fall. Emily? Catherine saw the way her sister's head snapped back as it collided with the sharp corner of the piano. She watched it all like a series of photographs in her head. She had to check on her, but her feet refused to move. Instead, she began to retreat into a corner. She didn't even notice her legs were moving until her forehead touched the wall. She didn't want to turn around. Her sister was on the floor. her eyes still open, unblinking. It was an accident. It was nothing but an accident. Was it? She pushed first. She got really scary. She strangled me. What? That's absurd. Are you sure? Would she do that? I don't know. I think she did. Catherine touched her throat. It felt fine. That parade girl, Emily, isn't it? She really believes just because the Marquis took her in that he's interested in her. Well, she's obsessed with the master. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Wasn't her mother a bit, you know, not right in the head? It probably runs in the family. Emily had looked mad. Her eyes had burned with malice for her as she closed her fingers around Catherine's neck, but she couldn't remember if that had really happened. Sister was always kind to her. She would never hurt her, even when they got into fights. Sister loved her. Am I turning mad? I have the blood of a mad woman. Am I going to end up like her? I only told her the truth. Guillaume doesn't care for her. She doesn't even care for him that much either. And it all just shaft the relationship. No sense trying to make everyone miserable too. But she called me jealous and a cunt. But she has never called me a cunt. She said that they had decided to send me away. My lessons sent home. The piano replaced. It was for my own good, she said. I don't have to travel here all the time. I can concentrate on my other endeavors. I can still make new friends. But I know she doesn't want me near the chateau or Guillaume. She hates it when I catch her with him. Perhaps this morning was the last straw? She hates it, but she also smirks at me when I see them. Like she basks in it. I think I might hate her. Catherine's thoughts ran through her head like a storm. They poured out of her aimlessly. I wonder if the piano is broken. Am I going to pay for it? What will become of us without Sister's wages? What of Father's medicine? What of my dreams? Sister can't be dead. Sister can't be dead. Catherine brought her fingers to her lips and nibbled on her thumb. She didn't notice this. Her mind was preoccupied. She was in the corner of the wall biting her fingers. It was a tiny comfort in a rapidly collapsing world. Guillaume opened the door and found Emily lying on the floor. An ugly gash broke the skin of her forehead. Facing the wall was Catherine, shivering like a leaf, viciously devouring one of her fingernails. He approached her cautiously. Catherine. Rosa, out of breath, was still able to let out a gasp at the scene. Emily's lifeless eyes stared up at nothing while Catherine pressed herself into a corner. What had happened after she had left? Rosa, will you call help for me, please? See that someone checks on Emily. Rosa did as she was told, but all she really wanted to do was hug Catherine. Oh my God, words! Hug Catherine herself. Guillaume took a small step toward her. He called out her name slowly, coaxingly. Catherine turned her head, her thumb still on her lower lip. The flesh was torn and a smudge of scarlet painted her teeth. It was an accident, I swear. Of course it was, Catherine. Of course it was. She pushed me first. She wanted me sent away. She wanted me gone. You can tell me about it later. Let me take you away from this room. What have I done? Catherine fell to her knees and wept. Large sobs sucked air out of her. She felt like drowning, trying to keep herself afloat between sobs. Every exhale was squeezing pain in her lungs. She felt Guillaume's arms wrap around her. What have I done? What have I done? You didn't do anything, ma chérie. This is not your fault. There was a bitter bulge building up in her throat, and she felt no amount of crying could push it back down. But what am I going to do? Father's sister? I'm so scared. Guillaume's arms wound tighter around her, and she clutched onto his warmth with a vasty of fear. You don't have to be. I will always be by your side. Catherine, I will take care of you and your father, all right? You don't have to worry about your future. Her tears soaked his shirt through, but the squeezing in her chest felt less painful. Why? Why do you do this? Why do you care so much for me? Guillaume's brows furrowed as if confused she had been asked. I just do. It was a boldly stated fact, as if painfully obvious, as if Catherine was a fool for not knowing it. It made Catherine's heart expand in her ribs. When she looked back, she would recall this as the moment she fell in love with him. The look in his eyes was reassuring and strong. She wasn't alone. She was going to be all right. Let's get you away from here. He supported her arm and stood her up, careful to block the view of her sister from her eyes. He led her to the door. Catherine hated how fast her relief came. She was still drenched in sorrow at her sister's death. Her father would not take well to the news, especially in his health. But she was all right, and she hated it. Rosa was hid with her. She didn't have to leave her piano, her dreams, him. Nothing had to change. And most importantly, she hated the voice that came whispering in her head over and over again. Thank goodness she's dead. Thank goodness. Is this it? Is this the next chapter? Nope. Still not the next chapter. Here we go. The first candle is lit. Oh, this is a different voice. The first candle is lit. The candle is storage. The love for familiars. The cleanest love. Rosa stared at the blue candle glowing in her hand as she chanted her first spell. Trust is the veil that conceives and deceives. Trick his eyes and his heart with the warmth from this candle's flame. A bond of blood like kin will be forged. Weave this trust so his tongue will yield what is sought. Nope, still not next chapter. Oh my god, this is such a long chapter. Rosa stood by Catherine's tomb, nursing memories of her. Oh my god, that hat though. The soft wind lightly blew her hair. It reminded her of Catherine in her playful ways. Tears sprouted from her eye. Even the wind. Instead of staring into space, why not do something useful? Find out more about the Marquis. Please, Mother. Not right now. Well, aren't you an ungrateful little bitch? How dare you talk back to me like that? I'm sorry, Mother. I'm just upset. Even in her death, this Catherine still manages to offend me. Good riddance. Ooh, I got another achievement. This one's called Insensitive. Rosa. Guillaume's soft voice came from behind. Rosa glanced at him in acknowledgement. He stood quietly beside her for a few moments, but ventured to speak. Have you thought about my offer? My house is always open for you. Remember that. I'm sorry for my outburst back then. It's nothing. The wind played around their feet, and Rosa pictured Catherine. Oh my gosh. And Rosa pictured Catherine as part of the breeze, playful and free. She was free from the pain and confusion that had plagued her in her last days. They stood beside each other in solemn reverence. Finally, Rosa broke the silence. She was my family. I was in pain before she came along. I didn't know any better. She gave me hope. She was bright like a flame. When I closed my eyes, I could still see the imprint of her light in the darkness. I can feel her warmth. A star. They didn't speak again for some time. Guillaume cleared his throat. I was an orphan too, much like you. I know what it feels like to lose too much. I wandered for a long time before I found anything to live for. Were you alone? Sometimes. Always. Rosa nodded. Did you have a family? Guillaume shifted uncomfortably. No, they, left me behind. I never knew them. Much of my memory of it is blurred. I was taken in by kind people once before, but Guillaume sighed and Rosa observed a certain disquiet in him. I didn't belong. But you have no difficulty mingling with people. I think of that as a necessity rather than a preference. But either way, it can be quite tiresome after a while. Things don't last. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I'm making my mood worse. I'm sorry. I don't mind. Guillaume had never opened up to her about his past before, and it worried Rosa how little she actually knew about him. Anyway, would you like to go around town? I'd very much like to take you to some place more cheery. How about our favorite spot? Guillaume smiled with understanding. The pair traveled up the hill at the edge of the town. There the view overlooked the quaint village. The sunset painted everything in the pink glow of dusk of endings. It is always so beautiful here. They used to spend time in this grassy knoll, the three of them. It was their own little hideaway. Memories of the past crept up on every corner. The ghost of laughter echoed in in the wind. Rosa touched the trunk of the small tree they had carved their names on. So many fond memories. Rosa, I want you to have this. Guillaume took Rosa's hand and placed an item in her palm. It was a simple silver locket. She looked up at him questioningly. I've had that for as long as I can remember. One of my remembrances from the past. I can't take this. You must. You need it more than I do. I'm not trying to yawn. But it's old and the locket doesn't even open anymore. I don't know why I've held on to it for so long. I can't even remember how I came to have it. But it comforts me. Maybe it will have the same effect for you. This is your treasure, Guillaume. It feels wrong to take it. On the contrary, I believe you must have it. Call it a hunch or a feeling, an urge on my part. I'm not good with expressing sorrow or even giving comfort, but I want to do something, at least, for you. He closed his hand over hers, affirming the gift. It's yours. Please take it. You are wrong if you think I'm letting you stay in the castle simply for Catherine's sake. I do it for my own accord. Let me do this for you, Rosa. We have been friends for quite a while. If you need to leave, at least stay until you feel ready to go. All right. But I will continue working in your household for my lodging. You don't have to do that. I can raise your status to a lady. You can read and write now, and very well. I'm sure you will be more comfortable in a higher position. I have no need for a higher position, just free access to your library. You have come a long way from the shy girl back then, Rosa. Watching you grow has been a pleasure. Yes, the library is yours. They were quiet for a while, only conversing through looks, smiles, and tiny sighs. Rosa realized that she had been holding on to Guillaume's hand all that time. She broke off from his hold, rather embarrassed. We should head back. You're right. It's getting quite late. Guillaume walked over to the carriage to get it ready. Excellent, child. Being a maid in his household will give you free access to the rooms. He trusts you completely. It seems the candle worked. I guess so. Rosa looked at the silver necklace in her hand. She fiddled with it, trying to open the lock. Oh, which one is the meaner one? I think I said leave it alone last time. Let's do open it. Open that locket. I'd like to see what's inside. An object that he owns will only make any enchantment more powerful. Rosa fussed with the pendant for a while, but like Yem said, it was stuck. I'll try again later, Mother. I'm rather curious about it myself. The spell will start its effect in stages, gradually uncovering his true face. Fondness first, then trust, familiarity. Rosa sighed. But was the spell necessary at all? Did she already have that? Didn't she already have that with Guillaume? Rosa bit her lip, remembering the warmth of his hand. They had known each other for a long time. It was rather comforting to have someone to mourn with. However, Rosa did find it strange. Oh, I tried so hard to swallow that one. However, Rosa did find it strange that Guillaume rarely even mentioned Catherine anymore. It was as if he was shedding her off like a skin. Again, the taste of blood in her throat resurfaced. The memory of the needles made her stomach lurch. Since her friend had died, the Marquis had begun spending all his hours locked in his office. He barely showed himself socially, rarely even attended meals. But they were casting a powerful spell, something that might harm Guillaume. What if he was, after all, innocent? She had years of good memories of him. What was she even expecting to find out? Exactly how could she live with the guilt of two best friends, two dead friends? Rosa sighed. She cared for him. Despite all the suspicions, she knew that much. But Mother was adamant. 3 candles for 3 loves. A fitting curse for a man who frolics in love's domain. Storge, the love for familiars. Philia, the love for friends. And Eros, the love for lust. Open his heart with Storge. Unmask him with Philia. Strike him down with Eros. Yet Rosa kept the 4th candle. One she had named Agape. Unconditional love. She didn't know whether she would ever use it. Mother, of course, would object. But just in case Eros successfully struck Guillaume, she wished to light Agape. At least give him peace before. Rosa walked towards Guillaume, a pang of anxiousness biting at her. Rise, my daughter. The work lies ahead. To bring him down, we must find his weakness. Then we attack. Revenge will be sweet, my dear daughter. Do it for Mother. Is this the end of the chapter? Please, God, tell me it's the end of the chapter. Thank fuck. Chapter 4. Metamorphosis. This is actually a fun chapter. Can I stop here? Can I save it? Save! Empty slots. Chapter 4. Don't look at the other saves. Those are from the recordings I've done that I haven't edited or uploaded. Alright. Holy shit. Alright. Yes, I would like to overwrite it just one more time because I'm one of those people. Even though I can see it, I'm so nervous about it. Alright. Holy shit. That was a ride, guys. That was a ride. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm having fun being the mean one this time. I played a, like, semi-nice mother in my previous run. So now I need to run a really nice mom and a really evil mom. And so this time I decided to go with the evil mom. And so far it's been interesting. So far not much has changed. A little bit of the dialogue has changed, but you know, things happen. Oh man. It is so hot here, guys. Holy shit. But doesn't this story, like, I've never watched 50 Shades of Grey. I've never read 50 Shades of Grey. I did buy and skim through 50 Shades of Earl Grey, which is a parody on the parody of 50 Shades of Grey. But there is this channel called Bia and Faye, where it's these 2 lesbian best friends who watch certain things and they make commentary over it. And one of the things that got a lot of views on their channel was lesbians watch 50 Shades of Grey for the first time. And let me tell you, it was fucking hilarious. And today they uploaded them watching the second one, 50 Shades Darker, I don't know what it's called. And like I've been getting some like major vibes off of Guillaume that reminds me a lot of the guy from 50 Shades of Grey. So I don't know, that's what I'm getting with this. I don't know if you guys are getting that that vibe off of Guillaume. It's a really interesting story, actually. Like the twists and turns in like the next two chapters, or like the next two chapters, chapter 4 and 5. I think there's a sixth chapter. There's a couple of chapters that you only get if you take a certain route. So I'm interested to see if I unlock anything with an evil mom. Oh man, Guillaume. Oh man, I cannot. If you stick around with this, I cannot wait to see who Guillaume is. It is like such a fucking plot twist. I was just like, what? The entire last chapter of the story just like blew me away. I'm so excited to see what the bad or like the evil ending is. I'm so excited. But man, it is just killer on the throat. Oh man. But I think I am good for today. I'll probably more when I'm feeling like really chill, I'll do this one. Earlier today I did a Super Meat Boy stream. That was fun. And so probably at night I'll do something like this, something chill like this or FTL. I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, I am done for tonight with Cupid, a visual novel. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to be nice to each other. Don't forget to be compassionate. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye. Adios, Torfi. Gracias for watching. Very appreciated. If I were the stop streaming button, I wouldn't be on YouTube. Turns out I'd be over here. Bye.